Battery's got it up.
One, two. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for coming straight after lunch. I know it must not be easy. My name is Piotr Steinbrich, and I'm Pearson representative for Croatia. We are very happy to be here today, well as yesterday. Today we are going to be talking about business English in our first workshop. I will be the lovely assistant at a certain moment, but it's Piotr's workshop and presentation, so I'm just a sidekick here. So, without further ado, here's Piotr Steinbrich. Just before Piotr, sorry, one more thing. we will be handing out feedback forms, so could you please fill them in and then give them back to us at the very end. Thank you very much. So, now for real. Piotr Steinbrich.
Thank you very much. Well, actually, for this presentation, Ida is a fully fledged speaker, co-speaker, and she will do one part of this presentation of this workshop for you, the one that involves technical skills, which I seem to lack. So we're going to talk about business English. We've got lots of things to show you here today, and just 45 minutes. So briefly, the agenda is that we're going to look at what we consider important aspects of teaching students who want to learn some business English. And one of those aspects would be vocabulary. Very often when students think of business English, they think in terms of vocabulary, difficult vocabulary that they will have to master, difficult both conceptually and also linguistically. And in this presentation, I'm going to teach you some vocabulary. I'm going to show you how important it is to make possibilities for the students, to create context for the students in which they would be constantly revising the vocabulary which is essential in business English contexts. I have not chosen business vocabulary because I think that would be too easy for you. I've chosen something else. I've chosen something which is called useless vocabulary. So I'm going to teach you 6 completely useless words and phrases in English. And I found them in a very nice website, an academic website, that lists all the words which were used in the English language in journalism, but only once. So not particularly frequent, as you can imagine. I'd like to ask you a favour before we start. Could you please not write them down? Because if you do write them down, then you'll spoil all the fun. I can assure you that by the end of the presentation, you will remember them all. Anyway, and also, you'll get that presentation in the PDF format, so you'll have everything I'll be showing in this talk. These are our words and expressions. Functional food, janitors, habituation, cubital tunnel syndrome, phase space, and Pig Zero. Not very business looking, as I was telling you before, but the idea is to focus on the words which might be slightly problematic for you, just like vocabulary words and phrases might be slightly problematic for your students. So these are our words. We're going to come back to them later. Now, when we talk about business English students, how many of you actually teach business English? Not bad. More than 50%, it's not bad. I believe the others want to do business. Similar. So those of you who teach business English, you know that you usually deal with 2 kinds of students. And I call them the no-idea students. That is, the students who do business English because they have to. And they usually have no idea what they will do with it later. But they think they will learn some business in business English courses, which is basically wrong, because they won't. And the second kind of students would be those who know exactly what they want. Like, I work in banking, in this particular sector, teach me that. I'm not interested in any other thing. So, as you can see, these 2 groups represent 2 ends of, we could say, a continuum. Business English Students Continuum, and we'll try to address them both. Also, when it comes to the actual teaching, our methodology for this presentation is that we're going to focus on actually teaching them English with a twist. Because I believe that if you want to learn business English, then in the first place you have to know English. And then you can add some business elements to it. Of course, you put it in a special context, so this is the slight change of focus here in the second point. And this is what we're going to look at when it comes to methodology. We're going to look at the following things. We're going to look at oral and written communication. We're going to look at something I call behavioural culture, which is really very important, and knowing how to behave, what kind of language to use in business contexts. Small talk, which is extremely important in business contexts as well. Yesterday I was talking to one of the persons working at the stands, a distributor. I can't remember which company really he was representing, but he told me that last year the most deals he signed at the karaoke night. That was the most successful business context for him. So the importance of small talk will be represented here. We're going to look at presentation skills, because I believe that most of the students in both groups will have to be struggling with presentations at one point or another. We'll look at critical thinking, which is one of the 21st century skills, something really important. I call it the fifth skill, getting the students to think about what they're doing. And we're going to look at vocabulary, business-orientated vocabulary. And also in the second part of the presentation, we're going to look at some online materials that you could use with your students, a platform that Ida is going to be talking about in more detail. Do you remember the words from the first slide, those 6 useless words or phrases? Can you help me out? Functional food.
Pig zero.
Pig zero. 2 out of 6. You probably fail. Face-based. That's 50% success already, isn't it? We're getting better and better. This is what happens with our students. We often make a mistake as teachers, and I'm no different in that respect, that we think our students will remember the words just after we've shown them to the students. And we're expecting the students to remember those words. And as a matter of fact, students think a lot of different contacts with vocabulary. We simply have to provide different contexts so that students make friends with those words. So, functional food was the one that you have mentioned. Do you know what it means? Okay. So now a little bit of questionnaire for you. Is it basically junk food which is dressed up to look prettier than it is? Or is it the food that athletes eat before big sports events? Or is it normal quality food sold at cheap supermarkets? Which one? 2. Well, actually, it's the first one. Think of a salad at McDonald's. That's functional food. Janitors. Jamaican musicians performing in the streets of London. Or artificial jam products made of, for example, bear fat. Phantom traffic jams where there are no clues to suggest what went wrong. It's 3. There's those phantom, you just know there's a traffic jam, but you have no idea why it is taking place. Obituainment is best described as reading obituaries for pleasure, a term for celebrity death news, or writing your own obituary while you're still alive so as to entertain others. The first one, reading obituaries for pleasure. Oh, it's sick, wouldn't it? That's actually the second one. Celebrity death news. Yeah, that is obituainment. You've got to remember that this word was used in English only once. Well, now it's the second time because we're talking about it. It's obituary and entertainment put together. Cubital tunnel syndrome is a term for a strong, unreasonable fear of crossing the Channel Tunnel. A condition resulting from holding a mobile phone to the ear for long, also known as cell phone elbow. You know, you talk too much and it hurts. A term that explains sweating in lifts. 2. It is 2. Yes. So that's cubital tunnel syndrome. Basically a pain in your elbow. Face-based. is a term used to describe a well-built person with a shaved head, usually wearing a tracksuit. Another word for neck, like, you know, a base or a face. Or a point in a relationship when pictures of the couple begin to appear on Facebook. It is number 3. It is number 3. So face is actually the beginning of a relationship on Facebook. And pig 0 is the very pig from which swine flu started. You remember swine flu from a few years ago, don't you? Refers to a person as a person that never talks to anyone, or is a complete loser. 3, 1, 2. Okay, it's who says 1? 2, 3. 3 is the most popular one. Actually, it is the very pig from which the swine flu started. And scientists were trying to find pig 0 to find a cure for swine flu. Did they find it? No, but I did. That is pig 0. As the 2 friends wandered through the snow on the way home, Piglet grinned himself, thinking how lucky he was to have a best friend like Pooh. Pooh thought to himself, if the pig sneezes, he's bloody dead. Also, we'll come back to these items in about 6 minutes, okay? When we talk about business English, I mentioned small talk as being something important, being natural. Yeah, being natural means different things in different contexts. And I've got an activity for you, which I'm going to show you in a moment. But we're going to address those important questions first. What is natural language? How important is it for the language we present in a business English class to be natural? Does language need to be authentic to be natural? How natural does a student's English have to be to function in business contexts? How can we help our students sound natural when they speak in English? And finally, how can we help them understand natural speech? So basically, the premises of communication in business context is what the following questions address. And this is the exercise I mentioned. Which one would be the most natural discussion, do you think? The female progenitor is asking a young person in a small wheeled vehicle if some hygienic measures are required to render him more comfortable. Or, the woman is asking the little child in a whatchamacallit if he needs a clean thingamagic. The mother is asking the baby in the pram if he needs a new nappy. It is so, isn't it? You're invited to a reception at the embassy. You're feeling a little peckish. What do you ask the ambassador? Alcohol, can I have another one of the chocolate balls? Excuse me, Mr. Ambassador, do you mind if I have another of these delicious chocolates? Or, G'davo cover, alright if I help myself to another of these chockies? They're pretty spiffy. That would be number 2, wouldn't it? How would one of these young people tell one of their friends what they do in their free time? I was into chilling out with my brethren. It's what I'm called. I love hanging out with my friends at school. I enjoy spending time with my friends, it's fun. Could be number 1. Yeah? If you look at the people here in the picture. I know, you can't. That's true. In any language, it's impossible to understand what they're talking about. You're teaching a group of adults in a summer school, you invite them for a drink. What do you say? What's your poison? Would you be so kind as to tell me what you'd like to drink? Or what do you want to drink? C. Or probably A would be alright as well. Yeah, depending on how well you know them. What is the relationship between you and the student? So as you could see, being natural depends on the context we're in, or our students would be in, more likely. Got to control the time. So that you see. And when it comes to small talk, we have to find a number of different ways to A, show the students the language in context, and B, give them practice of language in context. That would add to the development of the discourse skill, communication, when it comes to small talk. If you look at these expressions here, As far as we can see, it is probably true to say that, looking at it by and large, at the end of the day, in general terms, not to put too fine a point on it, as far as I can see. Would you say these are nice expressions? Would you say these would be useful for your business English students? Probably when it comes to small talk, or even something more than just small talk, probably yes. Would you be surprised if your students were using them? I would be nicely surprised, really. I would be very nicely surprised. So, probably the first stage would be to sensitize students to them, to basically show them a strategy of how to notice these expressions in the first place. And I'm going to show you a short YouTube clip. Some of these expressions will be used, some of these expressions will not be used in this clip. Okay? I want you to watch carefully and tell me which ones have been used.
Are you going to support my view that the civil service is overmanned and feather-bedded, or not? Yes or no? Straight answer.
Well, Minister, if you ask me for a straight answer, then I should say that, as far as we can see, looking at it by and large, taking one time with another, in terms of the average of departments, then in the final analysis, it is probably true to say that at the end of the day, in general terms, you will probably find that, not to put too fine a point on it, there probably wasn't very much in it one way or the other. As far as one can see, at this stage.
Is that yes or no?
Is that yes or no? Good question. Business and politics, we can say. No, it doesn't work. Oh yes, it does. So, which ones? All of them were used, apparently. All of them were used. But now we sensitize the students to their existence, to the fact that they actually exist in the language, and students hopefully will begin to notice those expressions. And this is the very first stage, because the second stage will be to get them to use those expressions. What I do with my students, I just ask them to use 3 or 4 and then make dialogues together and then try them out. Another important skill, communicative skill, when it comes to business English classes, would be the use of back channels. Something that is used in course books, something that is used in materials. For example, you will find some activities with back channels in the market leader, that's going to be referred to a bit later. But these are very, very basic, very simple structures which are extremely effective in everyday communication. Fantastic, you're kidding. Really? You're serious? No way. Basically you're reacting to what the other person is saying. And we do it naturally. We do it in Croatian, we do it in Polish, we do it when we speak English. Our students don't do it so often. And it's important again to show them that we have to do it, that they have to do it. Try to talk to somebody, like, after this talk, have a conversation with a friend and use no reaction whatsoever. See what happens. I can assure you that after about 30 seconds, the person will say, "You're right," because there will be no reaction at all. And this is a very nice strategy, to show the students that these back channels are actually useful. What I do with my students, I just tell them a story, and I invite them to interrupt me using these. And they love it, because they think they're misbehaving. And they're not, because it's all controlled, isn't it? So I tell them a story, like, yesterday I was at this party, there was a disco, 80s music, some Croatian music as well, Viola Dugme was singing and stuff like that. And students thought, yeah, really, that's fantastic. No, those kinds of things. And it is really enjoyable. The second type of activity would be to use one of the transcripts from, for example, a listening passage where you had a conversation, and you can ask the students to read through it and to insert those wherever they think they fit. So they're kind of garnishing the conversation with those expressions. Back to our vocab. The pig allegedly responsible for flu is referred to as well done. Cell phone elbow is also known as the syndrome. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Cubital tunnel syndrome. Junk food that looks nice is also called functional food. Phantom traffic jams, also known as gelatins. When the pictures of a couple begin to appear on Facebook, we call it phase-based. Which one was the problematic one? Cubital tunnel syndrome. That's 3 words, isn't it? Okay. Which phrase is missing? Obituaiment. Obituary and entertainment put together in one word. We're going to come back to these words in the final part of the session. Presentation skills. Do we have time for it? We do. Okay. Presentation skills is another very important aspect of business class business courses. Probably the students attending business English courses will have to do a presentation at one point or another at some stage. What I do with my students, I teach presentation skills as a separate course, and it's really enjoyable, well, at least for me. I'm not sure about the students, but I like it. And we usually focus on the following issues. We focus on body language, and we try to find the most typical problems, the most typical sins that presenters commit by watching others or by students doing the presentations themselves and then talking about them. So when it comes to body language, a very nice activity, you can sensitize them to problems and then you can put them in small groups, give mini presentations and see what the people are doing, for example, with their hands. You can see that very often people are what I call breaking fingers.
You know, doing all those things that look not very pleasing.
Fiddling with objects, like, you know, you've got a biro and you click it all the time. Squeezing hands, and they turn white, you know, the blood is gone. Very dangerous. Playing with a ring while talking. Playing with hair, if you have it. Got less and less of it, so I'm not doing that, but it's, I don't want to be out of sounding sexist, but women often go like, you know. And it is like a plague, we could say. So you just sensitize your students to these, put them in small groups and see, ask them to identify those and speakers. It's fun, and the idea is that they're not really focusing on the presentation itself, so the presentation comes as a byproduct, and usually it's more effective as such. We also focus on the manner of giving a presentation. So how the presentation starts. The first, say, 2 minutes of the presentation seems to be the most important part of the presentation. And I remember being introduced once at a conference, and the opening was really rather unfortunate, I would say, because the person introduced me as, this is Piotr Steinbrich, is going to be talking about this and that, and I hope it's not going to be boring. And I was like, cool, thank you very much for that. How students keep eye contact with a group. You can teach them a very nice trick. You know, if you talk to a small audience, what you could do is just you look slightly above the heads of the people, and then everybody in the group thinks that you keep eye contact with them. And in fact, you're looking at nobody. But that's the impression that the people get. Voice projection, how loud it is, how fast or how slow it is. A typical error probably related to the working of the brain, looking either at the right side of the room or at the left side of the room. I don't know which one I'm looking at more often, but it's very difficult to overcome. Or using the script, if it's used at all and how it's used. Some people feel safer with the script, some people feel safer without the script. Usually I think that was using the script actually kills the presentation. And the technical side of it, how dense the slides are, how unfriendly the slides are to the audience. Death by PowerPoint, people call it. How PowerPoint effects are being abused. I remember one of my first presentations years ago when I was wow with a PowerPoint. I used the typewriter effect. I don't know if you remember this. It was gone for long. And I really liked it, and I used it with a sound. And I had a short text, and every single letter appeared as if it was typed. So it was so embarrassing, you know. It took about a minute for the whole text to appear on the screen. It was boring as hell as well, because nothing was happening. The sounds were appalling. It was horrible. Font size, you know, usually when you use PowerPoint, 28 would be the minimum, wouldn't it? Graphics, how friendly or how unfriendly they are. So basically, talking about presentation skills could be a lot of fun, really, for the students, and not necessarily focusing on the content of the presentation, where, as I was saying earlier, the content is sort of byproduct. Another important aspect, probably the most important aspect, would be to make this distinction between teaching and learning. I strongly believe that learning is much more important than teaching. So fostering autonomy or promoting independence will be crucial. And we're going to look at that now. We're going to look at different aspects of autonomy. We're going to look at language, obviously. We're going to look at productive skills. We're going to look at receptive skills, the 21st century skills, which is, you know, critical thinking or using online materials, for example. Exam practice, because I do believe that some business students want to take exams, and the use of technology. And I'd like to introduce it with a short clip to show you that a new way of using the old materials could be attractive for the students. So we're going to use it as a metaphor. You know, the stairs will be the stairs with the piano thing, would be the online materials, where the escalator would be just the course book. Now, over to Stephen.
Well, hello everyone, again. I will be doing now a big faux pas in presentation skills. I will be looking at the computer more than I will be looking at you, but I hope you can look at the screen and watch what I'm doing. My part will consist of showing you the online component of Market Leader in this case, and how we think teaching business English or English in general can be made fun through the use of technology, because that's what we believe students respond to quite well. So let's start with the basics. You go online, Google, this is my first time using the map. Second, if you don't count the coffee we just had. And Polish versions. So you go to the site called My English Lab, and there you can either register if you're a new user, or log in, like I will do now, because I have already used this program before. You choose a course that you have access to. So in this case it would be Market Leader. And you log in. I will now log in as a teacher first to show you what you can see when you're the administrator, when you have all the power, basically. So you type in basically your email, which is your username and the password, and then you wait for a second, and you're in. So here I have access to all the courses that I logged into, I registered for, and what I see at the very top is, here it says practice, and it says there's 0. This means that I have no new grades for any practice material. And for tests, I also have 0, which means none of my students did any tests, so I don't have any results to check. Here I have the grade book, which I will show you in a minute. I have messages, which is the part where I can talk to, I can correspond with my students via emails. And I have settings. This is the place where I decide what is the pass grade, so I can decide if it's 50%, or maybe if I'm a bit more strict, it can be 65%. It all depends on what you prefer. And after I set everything up, I go to the course I'm teaching at the moment, which is Market Leader Intermediate. And here I have all the units, which is the materials I have here are basically materials from the workbook, plus DVD materials, plus some extra exercises. So everything that's in the workbook is also here, and we added some stuff as well. I also have the tests here. Now, if you see, the tests are in gray and the units are in blue. This is because tests are hidden, so the students cannot see tests when they log in their own version. And units are blue, which means that they can see them. And I know this because you see the circle here, and there's a black circle and a white circle. So if the circle is black, it means your students can see all the exercises, and if it's white, it means that they're hidden. If I want them to see the exercises, I just click the button and it changes. That's how simple it is. But I don't want them to see the test, so I'm going to have it here. Rolling. Yeah. They're hidden. And they will be able to see it only when I allow it. So, Unit 1. Let's see. Here I can see all the exercises before they see it. And I can decide what I want to give them as homework, for example. So I go to language work, and let's see, vocabulary A. This is the exercise for vocabulary A. In my version, it's already done, because I'm a teacher and I don't have time to go through it before the class, so it's already solved. I don't have to be doing any work, but of course my students will have to find the right answers in the puzzle, which is right here. Okay, so I can say this is something I might want to tell them to do for homework for next Friday, for example. And I can also decide to do maybe some writing exercises as well. Writing is tricky though, because for writing, I'm aware that I will have to do some work, because the computers, thank God, are not that smart to correct huge essays. So if I want to do a proper writing exercise, I will have to assign it, because this will mean that I will actually have to physically correct it. The computer will not correct it, because it cannot. Teachers are smarter than computers. Good to know. So here's, for example, the written assignment. There's, of course, a text, and then what they would do is they will write down the answers at the bottom of the page. So, here. Then back. Now, the coolest part of the lab is the grade book. Because what you do, you assign exercises to your students, and then you can just check who did what by looking at the gradebook. You don't have to correct anything if you don't want to, or even look in depth. You can just see who passed and who didn't pass, and that's it. To show you this, I'm going to cheat a bit and go to Speak Out Elementary, because they populated that gradebook for me artificially, so that you can see how it looks. So, Unit 8. These are your students here, Roger and Gino, and some more invented names. And this is what they have done so far. So, for example, Roger is very good, and he's done 92% of all the exercises, while Marlis is not that good of a student, and he's only, or she's only, at 43%. So this is just a very visual, nice visual way for you to see who is doing what, and you don't have to go into much detail or focus on anyone in particular for every single exercise you assign to your students, as for example, homework. If you want, you can click on, let's say, Unit 8, and then check how they did for every single exercise. So for exercise 1, you can see that, for example, Roger had 100%, and Teresa had 40%. So if you click on See Report, you can see the errors she has made. So you can perhaps give her some extra work and then see how well she did. Let's close this. Okay. Do you have any questions at this stage? No? Everything is clear? Okay. This is not as fun and interesting as Piotr's part, but sorry. Okay. Now I'm going to sign out. Yes. And now I'm going to sign in as a student. So, you as a teacher, if you decide to sign up for an online classroom, you contact me and you say, Ida, I would like to use Market Leader Intermediate with the online version. And I give you a teacher's code, and we set up a classroom together. We decide what is your pass level going to be. We decide if you would like them to have the possibility to have hints and tips. How many times would you like your students perhaps to try and do one exercise? Maybe you want them to do it once, maybe you want to, have them do it only once, and that's it. And then when everything is set up, you get an ID, which is the class ID of your class. Or for example, Group A Economics. And this is the class ID for that particular class. And this is the number that you have to give to your students. Your students buy the book with the code, and they register again on the same site, and they use this ID number to get into your classroom. And then you see them in the gradebook. They're there. That's how it works. So you first have to set up your own classroom, get the code, give the code to the students, and then they can log into your classroom. Does it make sense?
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Pay for registration?
Teachers don't pay anything, no. You get the code from me and you get training from me as well. So only the students have to buy the book with the code, and that's it. So, okay, now if you're a student, I'm logging in again. If you're a student, you will have a bit of a different view. You will also have courses for which you are taking. And again, you will have the grade book where you can see your grades. So only your grades, not of your classmates, of course. Messages, again, that you're perhaps exchanging with your colleagues or your teacher. and you have your own settings, because you also, as a student, have to, for example, set the time zone, because you want to know, for example, if your teacher tells you you have to finish by midnight on Friday, you will want to finish by midnight on Friday, not by the next day, for example. So, as a student, of course, I have to do the exercises. So, Unit 1. So far, I've got 100% in my vocabulary exercises. However, with grammar, I have only 27%. Could you help me fix that, please? Because it doesn't look good to have only 27%. So, I want to try again language review 1. This is the exercise. It says, complete the sentences with the verbs from the box. Use each verb twice, put each verb in the correct form and the correct tense, present simple or present continuous. So, first one is, it only takes. Which market segment? Oh no, my printer. Next one. More money in marketing this year. This advertising agency never works. Let's stop here. I won't have 100%, but let's see. So, if I decide I'm finished, I can click on either save and maybe submit it later, or I can click submit. Am I sure? Yes, I'm sure. See your results. 36%. Well, that's better than 27. I'm happy with it. For a Saturday, I'm quite happy with it. After disco night, good result. Okay. Do you have any questions at this stage, perhaps?
Also just for the market leader intermediate or for other levels?
For other levels as well. Okay. Now, how do I go back? At the end, of course. I thought I can just minimize it. Okay. And last thing, also as a student, you have exercises like this one, but you also have exercises like, you have sound work, so you can practice pronunciation, for example. You have writing, of course, survival business English. So, again, more focused exercises. If you're an eager student, you can just do the exercises by yourself. If you know, I used to do some exercises in school before the teacher told me I had to do them just for the fun of it. But then I'm a bit weird. Okay. And also, you have exercises with videos, which are quite nice, because perhaps sometimes you don't have time to do it in school, and you can do it at home. So you watch a video from Market Leader, for example.
How do you help people to find the right job?
As a specialist recruiter, our role is to...
Okay, and then you do the exercises here again. So again, it's not just maybe dry exercises, just fill in a gap and then submit. There is a bit of listening, video materials, and so on. Okay, do you have any questions now? I keep asking if there are any questions. No? Yeah.
Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
It dramatically changes the work in the classroom in the textbook itself.
Yes.
Can you tell something more about it?
Yes, well, the idea is to have a blended version of it. So to have the textbook that you would use for classroom work and to keep all grammatical, let's say, drilling parts outside. Because that's something that students can do on their own. Students can be quite autonomous and they can do these sort of exercises by themselves. So show them the model, teach them the grammar, and then all the exercises can be done at home. You get the results, you can help those who are having some trouble with a certain part of grammar, and it's much quicker. The progress can be done in a much quicker way. That is the idea of the blended process.
Okay, in reality, have you tried already?
Yes.
We can anticipate that our students will not do it at home. And how can you make them do it?
The only way to make them do it is to include it as a part of the grade. So you have to tell them that they have to join in for the live version, and they have to do the exercises because it will count as part of their grade. That is how it works.
Percentage to be able to take the final.
The final test. It all depends. You can adjust it to whether you work at university or a private language school. It all depends how you want. It's private language school, they would probably do it by themselves, I think, I hope. And at university, you will have to make it part of the grade, because otherwise they will not be doing anything. Yeah. No, stupid. It's not a stupid question. It's a very good question. For now, we have done it for private language schools and universities, and a new book for state schools that is not on the list in Croatia yet, called Choices, already has the live version as well. So we are planning to introduce it in the state school sector as well at a certain point. Tanya?
Yeah, it's just, if you just look at it, it becomes like homework becomes fun. So basically, you can grade it like you are grading homework, basically. If you haven't done your homework, then your grade cannot be A, you cannot be a student or something like that, for example. So this is more like a fun book, like
Fun book.
for homework. No?
Yeah, but make it a part of the grade.
Yeah.
Then they will do it definitely. They'll have to. Okay?
Can we find just one book and do all this with one private student?
You can, yes. Yep, that's it. Well, if that's it when it comes to questions. I think we've already very much, yeah, we went overboard. I'll just leave it to Piotr to finish then. Thank you. Piotr.
We have to be really quick because I think we're in overtime.
Oh, we are.
5 minutes. But nobody's kicking us out yet, which is the good news. So, just to round up the presentation, which 6 words or phrases did you learn today? Do you remember them? Big zero. Functional food. Obituary, cubital tunnel syndrome, somebody say phase, and dramatins. Great. You don't have to do it, but do it at home, please. Then that's your homework. I was using that because this is actually what the market leader, the online version, does. It offers students a lot of possibilities to attack vocabulary from different angles. And I'd like to finish off with a very, very short clip, if we still have time, right? To show you that it is important to really introduce new technologies in the classroom. Because new technologies are not that new for the students. They might be new to us, but for the students, it's just a staple diet, isn't it? Using computers, using internet, using online materials. So we don't want to be like this teacher.
For these boys, the first lesson of the day is on Charles Dickens' Great Expectations.
But now I was frightened again and ran home without stopping.
Humphrey, you'll take over.
I've got page 116.
My sister, Mrs. Joe Gardiner, brought me up by hand, knowing how to have a hard and heavy hand in the
Jonathan, you take over.
in the habit of laying it upon her husband, as well as upon me. I
Hector
suppose...
Johnson.
Suppose
Caleb, you take over.
That's Joe Gardiner and I were both brought up by hand.
Rams,
Not a good-looking
Petra.
woman.
We don't mind.
My sister and I had...
Honky tonk.
I had a general impression that she must have been making Joe Gard.
Phillips, Nash, Epithethnal. Go on, read. Yes, all of you.
Joe was a fair man with
Milling, Ashcroft, join them.
his smooth face and with eyes.
Scotch accents.
Such a very undecided
In the style of the Elephant Man. We're not getting anywhere. I will read. Page 117. Joe was a mild. Good natured. So we just watched the video. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You'll be able to get the presentation from Coupe. We'll give it to them, or the link where you can download it. And could you please give the feedback forms back to Tanya over there and over here. Thank you very much again. Sorry, of course it's okay.